40 chess. Yeah. 40 chess. 40 chess. Let's get it.
Yo, is that T-Dog?
40 chess. 40 chess. Hey. 40 chess. This a trade show. Patreon where the trades go. Tap in and watch. That's what you came for. Ain't gotta say my name. They know my name, bro.
What's good, man?
We got McNutted in ATM. Always start off the show with a trade from them. You should always make sure that your trade is in. Patreon, why not be a Patreon? Know you wish you could spend every day with them. Tap in and say what you gon' say with them. South Harmon can fill up a stadium. Next time you log in, make sure that you bring a friend. We about to kick off, let the day begin. Go follow the socials. 40 Chess FF is posted. If your trade is an F, you get roasted. Go like and subscribe for the crew. Apple, Spotify, and the YouTube. You know Cooper got the warp too. Let us give you a walkthrough. 40 Chess. This is 40 Chess.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Dynasty Trade Show Saturday night special. Adam, I'm sauced up. I'm rocking every chain I own. Iowa finally found a quarterback. Can this night get any better?
Well, not necessarily with the chains. So, quarterback at Iowa? Passing game?
Let's go. Well, he can't really throw too well either, but he can run the football at least.
There you go.
So, we're halfway there. Like the Bon Jovi song.
So you mean you got another running back?
That's fine. Because we didn't have a running back there, and he also couldn't throw either. So we had a glorified punter. That's pretty much what he was. He was real good at throwing picks.
Yeah, you can't get worse than that. But speaking of being worse than that, right? I saw you started the trade show off. Setting the example. I was shocked. Blitz almost put together an entire show, trading away Brandon Aiyuk or trading for Brandon Aiyuk, depending on what type of build you're in. So you start off with a Brandon Aiyuk trade of your own. I'm in the league, Arkham Asylum. But before we get into that, if you do want your deals featured, you see Fizzle right here at the moment. But listen, Fizzle, love you, but we got to get you out of the way because we got patreon.com/South Harmon. $5 gets you into the completed trades portion of the channel where you can put it in. Let us know if you want to be a part of that because we will tell you, as Fizzle puts it, whether you got probably an F, and if it is an F, you're getting roasted. Mike, Brandon Aiyuk was actually the other thing about him not performing all that well, or at least what we were expecting, obviously with the holdout and him getting his deal later. But let's take a look at what you did and then some of these other subsequent trades here. All right, so you end up getting in Arkham Asylum, which it's a 12-team Superflex best ball. I think we're starting 13 in this one. You're trading Brandon Aiyuk away after tearing the ACL. What's that?
Deeper league.
Deeper. Yeah, it's
you gotta get it deep strokes.
Chad Ochocinco, if you know you know. So you're in that deep league. You got Aiyuk, tearing his ACL. Obviously, in best ball, you don't want to carry the 0. So even then, I mean, I don't care what the player's value is. You want to try to move him, all things being equal. So I'm curious, how quickly did you shop him? Were you shopping him? Was offers coming to you? How did it kind of play out?
Monday morning, waiting to leave the Airbnb on my birthday, sitting there sending out deals.
So we got a birthday trade. Okay.
Got a birthday trade. Time to go, Brandon. Appreciate you. I didn't want no bad presents on my birthday, though. Got to send those away. Take it back to the store, trade them in for something else.
And Adam's already had a new home in New York, right? And Allen, while obviously we know the age and the injury concerns, showed you and multiple times throughout his career prior, as well as with Caleb Williams, he has immense upside. So in best ball, I mean, I guess I'll say this: if you have, I look at this from two different lenses, right? It makes sense from the standpoint of if you're E-Tron, how in the world are you at this point with these two guys if you're trying to not win or if you're not a strong contender? Like these are two of the pieces that feel like if you're not even sure about your direction, you've been trying to move for a while. So
should have been. I would hope.
And I mean, maybe it's just a case of the league dynamics. He wasn't getting what he thought he was able to, so he gets this. I would say, if I'm you, as a contender wanting to contend, I can't imagine getting a whole lot better than this. And the reason I say that is, I feel like Aiyuk's trade, like trading him away right now, just seems so savvy on the contending side, because obviously you want to buy cheap if you can as a rebuilder, but this guy's not getting any younger. He's going to be coming off an ACL at this point of the year. Probably a little slower start to next year. I'm not saying he's going to be cooked or anything, but it feels like an asset in best ball especially. I'm not really at all eager to be waiting on, unless I am in a full rebuild. So while these guys are older and they could be cooked literally next year, I'm happy as hell to get 2-for-1 with these guys here.
Adams hasn't been great, but in this league he was already doubling them up in WAR per game, like doubling Aiyuk up. So just think about that as a contender move. Like I'm not going to try to justify. I got one over on Etron here, which is fine, fine. Like I'm not sending this away. First and foremost, even if I am rebuilding, I'm not giving up Adams and Keenan Allen in a best ball league for an injured Brandon Aiyuk. Like I'm gonna tax the shit out of people to do it. But
well, yeah, go ahead.
In warp wise, Adams was already twice the player that Aiyuk was for the season. So think about that from a contender perspective. I just took a 0 in best ball that's going to get me multiple zeros, who just got hurt. I don't give a shit what the age difference is. I'm trying to compete and win this fucking year. And I sent him away for one player that's already better than him, like doubling him up. And then you get another piece on top. You get another, hey, Keenan Allen. Might make the lineup 3-4 times the rest of the year. Don't know when it's going to be. But it's going to be helpful. I can tell you that. It's much helpful than a 0 that I know is not making the lineup.
For sure. I mean, I would say, what's interesting about this, Mike, and maybe an unpopular opinion here, okay? But, man, I'm telling you, when I say this, rub people the wrong way, I don't really care. I think this is a trade that we should have been considering, or that if it was in your inbox before the ACL, not saying you had to take it, but you gave strong consideration to, honest to God.
Sure.
Like, this to me feels like the trade went down prior to Monday. More so, not right. All naked after on your birthday in your birthday suit. This one to me feels easy. I get it.
You want to know who else is beating Brandon Aiyuk in WAR per game in this league?
I'd imagine probably quite a few people. Tell me it's Keenan Allen.
it's fucking Keenan Allen by 0.02.
Lucky guess. I would have never known. But I mean, the thing about Aiyuk, I guess, is this. I think for me, I'll be picky about where I buy him. I already have so many shares, so that's probably part of the problem anyway. But I feel like his value right now, this is the time to trade him away, honestly. So if you have Brandon Aiyuk on your team and you're in a contending mode, right? You're obviously shopping him. Let's say you don't get a deal like this done. Every week that goes by, someone else in Frisco will be performing. Someone else in Frisco will be scoring. Brandon Aiyuk won't be doing anything. And the further we get away from this injury, the name Brandon Aiyuk actually just took a big catapult last year and kind of etched himself into what people believed was a top 15 type receiver, right? Before that, he was always up and down, a lot of talent, we said, but didn't really see it come to fruition. Like, I feel like at his age and where he's going to be 27, this is I love him, man, but I feel like this is a player that probably has more to lose than to gain coming up into this offseason as well.
Let's talk about it, right? You remember the old the Price is Right game with the little fucking yodeler, going up the mountain?
Oh, yeah.
He gets to the top, then he falls off. This is the opposite of that shit. Brandon Aiyuk's right here, and he's yodeling. Like, as the season goes on, he's going to go down. Now, yep. I'm going to be completely honest with you. At some point during the offseason, whenever you get some bullshit positive report about Brandon Aiyuk being ahead of schedule in his recovery,
oh yeah, it's coming.
It's going to go up a little bit.
Sure.
The positivity is going to come up. But here's the downside risk, Adam. It's I think we're just going to call them MLKIs, right? MLKIs, multi-ligament knee injuries. MLKIs.
Damn. Yeah.
He's got an MLKI, Adam. And we know how this story goes. We know how this fucking story goes with these guys. So he's going to end up on the PUP, and he's probably not going to play at the early part of the season. And when he does come back in 2025, he's probably going to play shitty. It's going to be off to a slow start. So then that value goes right back down into the shitter again until he's back and fully healthy. So this is the roller coaster you need to be on. So if you're in a contender right now and you had Brandon Aiyuk, now is the fucking time to sell him. I don't know what you're waiting for. Like, it's not going to get any better.
Yeah, it probably won't. I mean, maybe, Mike, I guess I'll say this. If you're playing in a bunch of leagues, you might have a market or dynamics where right now in a league or two, like, you really can't move him, but you're trying to. I think the majority, though, of the times, if you're trying and actively willing to move a guy like him at this moment, you'll get one done. So what I'm kind of curious to see is all these different deals, what they look like, and then we kind of can form a very clear, like, what he's going for in the market, at least, over the last week, and then kind of where we side on it. So here's a 14-teamer, all right? This one is crazy, my friend. I don't need context to be truthful to you about this one. 14-team, PPR, lineup start 12. 14-team, lineup start 12. For those that do not play in a 14-team, for those that do not play in, deep lineup starters, this is for a lineup league, Mike, this is a girthy one. This is a deep one. But it's a 2 for 2. And, I mean, to me, what's actually really crazy is the fact that the wrong side has $15 just because. And that's my favorite number being 15. Like, the fuck are we doing? Like, I would love to be a fly in the wall in some of these situations where I feel like, is it the blind leading the blind to water? Like, how does $15 in Fab even come up in a trade 2 for 2 as clear as these guys are, where their values are? It makes sense. I mean, if Aiyuk was healthy, it makes sense. Maybe. I don't even know if it does that. But the $15, like, what? How does that even get into the deal? Like, how is it like, all right, listen, I need Christian, did you just do you have to have the cherry on top? Is that what it was? You had to have the cherry on top, didn't you?
He's got that ESPN magic, man. You know this.
As he's sporting, it's interesting. Company guy, supposedly. He's sporting a Dynasty Nerds little logo up there. What's going on, Christian?
What the fuck? No, here's a crazy thing. Again, DJ Moore, better than Brandon Aiyuk at this point. Again, if you talk about it before the injury, DJ Moore for Brandon Aiyuk straight up, that's not ridiculous at all. You probably take the dub on that, right?
Right.
Neither one of them are like super spring chickens, right? They're not second-year, players that we're building. Aiyuk is a little bit older. You got the contract, right? DJ Moore was close enough to him in an age and definitely beating his ass in production, warp-wise. So I don't understand it. And now you got an injured Aiyuk. Why you just give up fucking DJ Moore? Like, if that was your straight-up part. The second part, the Josh Allen for CJ Stroud, is this close to anybody? Like, is this Solomon S side? Is like he's still fucking August startup draft value where CJ Stroud was CJ Stroud has not been playing fucking well, man. He's not giving you the fantasy points. I don't fucking understand what this one was about. And then to your point, like, here, just take $15 in Fab for no apparent fucking reason.
I really, Mike, I'll be honest with you. I was having such a hard time looking at it. I forgot that this box over here on the left is what the trade show was. I was like, I get this off my screen. And unfortunately, I killed the deal there for a second. But, like, here's the thing, Mike. It is still close to people, believe it or not. If it's like Ripley's Believe It or Not. Do you believe Keep Trade Cut on where they have players and values? CJ Stroud is still currently quarterback 4, which puts him very much in the quarterback 2 range of Josh Allen and quarterback 3 range of Jaden Daniels. The only people separating them are Jamar Chase and Malik Neighbors, who most people at this point are quantifying him. So I'm not here to listen, the reason I said it could make sense when he was healthy is I guess I could see where people would do a trade like this. I would never do this trade personally. Like, healthy. I know why. I love Aiyuk. 14 team, first of all. Let's just go to that lens. The quarterback at that point, especially the high-end one that I can tell you I've seen, like a Josh Allen, Like Josh Allen to me is one of the few guys, if I'm chasing a warp, like we've talked about this, if I want to chase the quarterback position still in 12-team leagues, Josh Allen is one of the guys I'm willing to still pay the fucking full boat price for, man. Like if I have a chance to go get him, I'm going to do it. You get to 14 teams, dude. Josh Allen is he becomes, I would say, like Mike, we don't play in as many of these leagues because it's just honestly, it's insane. If I have Allen, you can't pry him out of my hands. And if I have a chance to get him, I'm listening with far more willing to pay this than that for Josh Allen. I would smash this trade. I would never even get to the $15 part. I wouldn't even get cute with that. I'd be like, I have to have this now.
Mm-hmm. So just take a guess. 14-team league. Mm-hmm. And Josh Allen hasn't been all fucking sunshine and rainbows and unicorns this season. Like he's had some bad
weeks. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Where is he in a warp for the season so far?
Relative to all positions, like total skill players?
Yep.
Like flexes?
Yep.
I'd put him at, I don't know. I'd put him in definitely top 10, probably top 8.
5.
Yeah.
Got 5 on it.
That's what I was going to guess. I mean,
number 5 overall warp player.
The only reason I wasn't sure if it was
a shittier quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't sure with, with a league like this, if what kind of scoring settings came into play. So I'm top 10, lock it in. I could see, depending on what the scoring is. I mean, I could see him all the way up into 5-3. Just depends on what the rushing is relative to the passing, 4-point passing touchdown. But you get to 14-team leagues, what Josh Allen's doing relative to the quarterback field is, even when you said it, like there was one game you would have been better leaving him out of your lineup. I know no one did, but
for sure.
I mean, even with that, still as high as he is. So, not to mention you got Amari Cooper. So the one good thing out of Cleveland, he got it.
6 quarterbacks in the top 10 in this league.
Yeah,
in warp.
Yeah,
6 out of 10.
The wide receiver still at the very high end probably has some decent warp, but you'll see in a 14-team league it'll probably flatten out really quickly. Meaning, these type of players, especially Mike, if they're scoring similarly, are going to be in a flat tier typically. So
they just lost the number 1 wide receiver in this league too, also to a terrible injury. So
Godwin, whether 14 team, 16 team, 12 team, right? He's him.
He's good. There was 4 quarterbacks that had a wide receiver 1.
Okay.
Josh Allen being one of them.
Yep. Well, that one, we're off to a bad start here. Okay, Puka Nacua now. This one, when I was going through, just kind of combing over, a little more understandable. 12-team Superflex, PPR, half-time premium, lineup start 11. The cellar dwellers. Who is still dwelling in the cellar after this trade?
Phil.
Phil Nye the science guy. I don't know, man. Okay. You got Puka Nacua. You want to rebuild. Cool. Get it. Well, I'm not like this trade goes down midweek. I don't know. We'd have to go in the Discord to see. Like, Puka's about to play. Now, I know he kind of, with the short week in the practice report, maybe caught some people off guard. Okay, but he's coming back. Like, his return is imminent. At least it's being said that way. I understand you could be skeptical given all the injuries this year. What? Isn't it about time to let him play a little bit and make sure he might not go back up when everyone else's guys are getting hurt? Like, all these wide receivers are dying, Mike. They're all dying. You got a whole absolute cluster of dead bodies. You got one coming back. One of the chosen ones towards the end of the year. Like, I get it. I get one to get the 25 first. I get the appeal of Aiyuk. I don't know if I'm making this trade on a rebuild, Mike, honestly. Especially if I don't know what that 25 first looks like. It's probably a hard pass for me, to be honest with you.
It doesn't look good. Slemo, number 2 team in the league.
Oh, it's Slemo?
Just got off.
Scratch that.
Just got off at 0. The only thing that's saving grace at all for Phil that you'll try to do is this gives him 4.
He's loading up?
Now.
All right.
4 in 2025.
So this is a total process move. I mean, good on you then, man. Sometimes some people, Mike, I talked about on one of my leagues, it's a monstrosity now, but there was plenty of times that I was trying to go through process and I I couldn't do it. There's certain times like this where I'm going to have a hard time with process, right? I know the process is correct, but that's like, yes, but can't the process also have, another layer of goodness, another layer of payment, right?
The full context, right? Like, I'll give it to the people just so you know why I say it's not the worst thing for Phil. I still wouldn't fucking do it.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's a horrible trade. I'm not trying to say that. I'm saying I would have a hard time letting go of him for this.
It's probably the 110, 111, 112, and Brandon Aiyuk, and it gives him 4 firsts and 25, and pretty much does lock up the fact that dude's going to have the 101. Like, he doesn't have to worry about it. He hadn't won a game yet. There's another team with 1 win. I get it.
Okay.
I kind of get it. Get the points off your team, whether it's max points or record. Either way, helps you the fuck out.
Yeah.
I'll say this, though, Adam. Like, let's just hypothetically just talk about Puka. Let's just say Brandon Aiyuk didn't tear his ACL and shit. And this was the week Puka was coming back.
Okay.
Would you trade the 111 and Brandon Aiyuk with the way he was performing? Let's assume he had another turdish game, which the whole fucking team had a turdish game against the Chiefs. The Chiefs fucking mollywopped.
They've had a lot of these. They're becoming a little more standard. But okay, I'm with you. Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah. They also. I mean, that part to me though hasn't changed. He's been what he's been.
For sure.
Mike's deep in that cup. I think he's been the same version of what we've seen. He is going to do really well when his skill players are out there balling, and he's had some issues with those guys being out there. The whole team has not seemed to be. I don't know. It's a lot of weird things happening. They seem to let. I don't know. It's not just that I think they're very talented. It seems like they just do a lot of bonehead shit. But what I want to say about this is, if it was healthy, right? I would look at my team and say, okay, this makes sense, but am I willing to do it? Am I in a position to kind of, like, there's sometimes I'm in the position to kind of thread the needle here, right? Like, all right, let's say Aiyuk is Puka's in my wide receiver 3 or flex type range. It's like, damn, can I pocket this first? And then obviously I love Puka. You know how much I love Puka, but like, if I have a first, and it doesn't have to necessarily be Aiyuk that I use later. Maybe I can just keep him in my flex, hope that he continues to play better, gets closer to that, talent level that we've seen him at. And now I can add that first and another first or whatever. I can go make another move later to go get a big hammer when I don't have to carry the risk because he's coming off injury. Cooper Kupp, the same situation. Maybe. But I would have to probably be in a situation where I could afford – I had the luxury to maybe play that game. I'm not doing that if I'm looking at a team that maybe I have really good quarterbacks and Puka's like my wide receiver 1 or 2. I'm not playing that game. It'd be situationally if I took this deal.
Well, the only thing I'd say is if I'm in Slim Nose position, here, if Aiyuk was healthy and he's underperforming, there's a real conversation with Puka coming back about the warp difference that he would provide to attach my later first to go try to get an upgrade in the lineup league. So I'm saying even if Aiyuk was healthy, this is a real conversation about a trade that you can make, a strategery.
No, I like that. Well, I think it would have been a very reasonable conversation. Yeah.
Now that he's hurt, with an MLKI.
We had the flips, Mike. You're talking about when, Aiyuk was healthy and probably Puka was not. So, okay. There, I would definitely be more willing to do it. Let's say you did this right when Puka got hurt. Oh shit, man. Okay. Lots changed, buddy. It changes fast, and we're going the other ways now. Puka's playing, Aiyuk isn't. Now 25 first. Here's what I guess I will say is that how do I put this? I think the 25 class, right? And I talk about leverage. I like having leverage in a class. To me, though, at this point in the year, I'm not necessarily looking to get that first to just lock in the late one, other than the fact that you do have more first to kind of package up as one big trade. It kind of gives you more appeal, but Puka Nacua is a guy that I'm not really looking to move off of light, and Aiyuk's probably not, like we said, his value is probably going to be dipping for a while. And a late 25 first that's probably locked in that way. I'm not going to say I wouldn't end up making the trade eventually, but I would probably be a little more selective and try to see, can I wait a couple more weeks? Can I get, something similar from somebody else where I'm getting a first that maybe has a little more upside down the road? Or should I even pick off a 26 first from some team that's more mid and is willing to go get Puka Nacua, right? Like, those are the kind of conversations I'm having if I'm actually moving off a guy like Puka in a big rebuild like this. But Slemo's team now, this is a gift, man. Dude, his team is flexing DJ Moore, T. Higgins, Stephon Diggs, Garrett Wilson, Puka Nacua, Amon-Ra St. Brown. On the bench currently, based on just projection, obviously. Who he starts, who he wants. But David Montgomery's on the bench. Legette's on the bench. He's got Mark Andrews looking better. Taylor Ramondre. I mean, Josh Allen, Dak Prescott. This 25 first doesn't have enough upside for me to feel like I should do this trade, right?
I get you.
Tight end one? Is that what I just heard? I love that.
Yeah, I said tight end one, Tucker. I'll say this too. The fucking crazy thing is, Adam, if we were to let's talk about the class part of it. I'm seeing the tweets about Garrett Nussmeier out there being QB1, and it kind of makes me fucking sick. Like, makes me a little bit nauseous. But that's kind of where we're at. Let's talk about if we were to go in a time machine to this time last year with what we knew about the 24 class. You know, Bo Nix is playing well. Michael Penix is playing well. J.J. McCarthy's undefeated. Like, Jaden Daniels is on his way to a Heisman fucking trophy. Caleb Williams is Caleb Williams. Marv is Marv. Neighbors is doing his thing. Brian Thomas Jr. is kind of exploding. Like, we had a pretty good fucking idea that the 24 class at that time, this time last year, was good. Yeah, so when you look at back end first, you were like, oh, you can kind of project that in your mind. I tell you 25 first right now, Adam. You and I watch a lot of football. We follow this shit. I have no idea who the fuck is at the back end of a 25 draft class. Like, I have no fucking
clue.
I got like 4 names at the top, and then I'm like, don't know.
Well, let me help you answer. You could just put those 4 names, put them in the back pocket, because the answer is we'll know. Just we don't know today because there is so much that's going to shift. Mike, the 22 class was similar as far as I would say projection and range of talent, right? The main similarity, I should say, not difference, is that the quarterback class. I'm not saying some won't come out here and end up getting first round draft capital or being guys that are drafted, but the class as a whole has a lot of question marks, which in Superflex makes the entire draft have a lot of Superflex questions. So when you get to the back end, like Christian Watson was a guy that you probably didn't really put safely into late first range, until pre-NFL drafts were happening. Maybe even after that, honestly, until he got the draft capital. So it was
the Senior Bowl rise, right?
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Well, he did, but then it was like, were people really – even then, I think sometimes people were like second round. But I felt like he was more drafted late first when he went to Green Bay, all that. But the point is, late first, dude, you're talking about guys that are probably in a big range of 6 to 8 players when we kind of shake all this information out, where it's not very much different than a second in a weak class. So, again, that doesn't mean that you can't move it for more and all that stuff. I get the leveraging part. So let's not overtalk it. Process is correct. Just for me, I might be a little more picky, and I probably could look like an asshole sooner than later. Okay, Mike, here's the cheap stuff I'm looking for. This is more what I was expecting, okay?
Now we're into the crusty.
Now we're talking Victory Road. Best ball start 12. I'll tell you this. Best ball, it makes a lot more sense when you see a trade like this, but I think me and you playing as much as we do in best ball, like this is I don't know. I know it seems crazy after seeing some of those other trades. I think this is more along the range of what I think people be settling on. Like, I don't want to bail you out with Keenan Allen, Devontae Adams. I don't want to bail you out with Puka Nacua. I'm not bailing you out with guys that could score outrageously elite points. Here, Deontay Johnson has the opportunity to. Andy Dalton. Even if is he good or is he hurt? Maybe both. Maybe he stinks. Who knows? I don't know. I don't know, but Deontay Johnson has a range of outcomes where he could be really good. We've seen him be good, and we saw for a few weeks with Bryce Young early in the season he could be completely irrelevant. Rico Dowdle, I mean, listen, I kind of like the player, but what are we talking about here? It's a best ball running back. Like this is what I'm talking about here for a trade.
It's so good they're giving dusty ass Dalvin Cook looks this week.
Well, they want to go to the old vets. They're doing everything they can. He probably feels like he's playing back in the 80s and he's a freshman. Like you can't get run, you know?
But in all reality, right? This is a contender move, if there ever was one in best ball, and you do what you got to do. Right. And listen, you talked about process play. This is the right kind of process play to make as a contender. Like this is what you got to settle for. This is what you have to settle for to push your chips in.
Yep.
What I do want to highlight though, because we haven't seen it up to this point. If you're out there buying Brandon Aiyuk, this is the kind of pressure you put on the person who wants to buy Brandon Aiyuk.
Well, right? I think this
is like, buddy, this is my top dollar. This is what I'm willing to fucking give you. And then I am, as a rebuilder, am willing to take on Brandon Aiyuk. Right? Yeah, I am willing to do it because I don't feel like I really lost too much anyways. I wanted to get these dudes off my squad anyways.
Yeah, I think here is about I'm going to call it what I think is the case. Like the amount of people that end up watching this show, I think there's plenty of sharp people watching the show. I think there's plenty of people that don't watch this show and are going to get a little more on board or in line with what we think about it right now today. But I think the reality is just what we know about the situation playing, and we've seen it time and time again, the value is going to dip on Aiyuk, but I think most people are not going to be in that mindset. Meaning, I don't think we're going to get to this point where this trade is happening until a few weeks from now. So I think it's definitely a good, this is the type of player package I'd be willing to send away for Aiyuk. You want to go get Aiyuk? Okay, cool. I'm looking to get off some players that don't really have any type of value insulation at all, and dicey, a little dicey. I'm not telling you that Deontay can't be nice. He's been a nice receiver so far. He's still talented, but like it's a dicey player as far as both production and value insulation. I'll give you two of them in a best ball type league, but I don't think we're here yet. At least I don't think personally we're here yet. Maybe a couple weeks from now. On the flip side of that, if you hear that, and you're in best ball, Mike, you talk about this is the contender type trade to move, the contender type of move to make, and I agree with that. Let me ask you this: do you think? Because I think people are going to push back. It's just the way it is. So I'm gonna phrase the question. I'm gonna lob it for you. You can give me the Dikembe. Do you think this is possible in your league that if you don't make this trade this week, next week or two, you get a package you like better or a slightly different group of players?
Possibly, but you also run the risk of not doing it and then also losing this week because you're just rostering a zero.
Yeah, I think in best ball,
there is that possibility of Brandon Aiyuk being the reason that you lose this week. I mean, in some of these best ball leagues, we see some wild scores too. And we've also seen these come down right to the nuts where you're like, a dude is like one catch away from entering your lineup and making you win that week, right? And not having that opportunity in best ball league just irks the shit out of me. Here's the one thing I will also say, Adam.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I want to talk about WARP. Both Rico Dowdle and Deontay Johnson in WARP per game were better than Brandon Aiyuk this year.
I mean,
both.
I do feel like when we continue to go through these trades, you're going to have a hard time putting players in this mix that aren't going to be ahead. I mean,
because he was pretty shit.
Unless you've been living under a rock, Brandon Aiyuk has been constantly disappointing outside of one fucking week. He had a nice week, but it wasn't like he went bananas. I mean, those other weeks are far dragging down his WARP per game. All right, let's get into some other ones here. Let's see what else we got. He was like that 92 Cutlass, real fucking shit box. I like
but it had like $3,000 Spreewells on it. Most of you kids don't know what Spreewells are, but
Spanish
back in the day, that was the shit. Right? That's what it was.
Spreewell was, listen, he was trying to feed his family with those spinners. All right, give the kid a break.
Hey,
that was one of my favorite.
Shit there for a while.
That was one of my favorite lines. Like back when media didn't travel like it did today, there's no chance someone was, talking to the mic like this. When he was talking about, like, at that time, to say that was just, he got blasted. Plus, he had so much off the court stuff, I should say. Speaking of, Mike, let's talk about a best ball deal where we get a little monstrosity with this, okay? Brandon Aiyuk in this type of a deal, which Blitz conveniently puts, if you haven't, you know what? Hold on. I'm not going to let this kid get away with it, Got this thing all big. The Who's, right? Sneakily tries to get himself, he tries to do it, maybe like 5th to 6th deal, right? not quite the last deal, but just in there so no one catches it. Big, huge deal he made. So in a best ball league, Mike, this is one of those trades where Aiyuk, I think, is just a part of this big package. And I'm curious for you when you see the assets that are going away here, okay? So we're talking a 25 early to mid, right? So this is a team that's unlikely to make the playoffs and could end up being like a 103 type pick. You're talking about another team that probably is teetering on the playoffs, but not quite as poor. So these are firsts you would like to have, obviously. Not saying you wouldn't like to have any first, but these ones, especially in this class, I'm kind of licking my chops for. The 3rd and 25 feels like a misplaced asset in this deal, frankly, but it still comes that way. And then Brandon Aiyuk is the tying piece for a package of T. Higgins, Deebo Samuel, Evan Ingram, Kirk Cousins, and Rachaad White. This is a best ball start 11 where we have a 1.5 points per catch for the running back, 2.25 for the tight end. It is 1.25 for the wide receiver. So they're all boosted, but I do feel like that definitely is going to help out the lines of the running back and the tight end a little bit. I'm not going to say it gets crazy, but makes all positions a little more appealing. What do you think in this? The fall of Constantinople.
Yeah. So break it down. Some context on it. Ja Flip here is getting back his own first. That's the early to mid one. And it's not early to mid. It's going to be early because Ja Flip's team is fucking terrible. He just sent away a bunch of shit. Yep. So it's going to be early. Probably, it doesn't look like it's going to be the 101 or 102, but 103 is a very high probability. Let's just say
you can drive it to the 103, right?
You're not getting very good odds on it, the 103 if that was your selection. Let's just say that's the favorite in the clubhouse.
Sure.
That's probably where it's going to be. Right now it's the 104. He just made himself way worse than the team that's currently 103. So
right.
It's the 103. 103 in this deal is the most valuable piece. Period. Fight me. There ain't a fucking thing on the other side that comes close. Maybe T. Higgins, but no. Not really.
Stop.
I've taken the 103 all day, every day. Right? So let's start there. However, when you get the Brandon Aiyuk side, anything that's on the left side, and that does include shitty-ass Rachaad White, is more valuable at this point to a contender in a best ball league than Brandon Aiyuk.
Sure.
So that is a dub. Now, I don't know if it's necessarily the same dub as the 103 versus anything on the other side, but we're in the ballpark here of canceling some shit out, okay? The mid first. T. Higgins, mid first, which looks like it is an actual mid first. Fine. It is what it is, even though they just came out and said T's probably not going to suit up this week. If I'm a rebuilder, I say I'd probably prefer the mid first. That's kind of where I'm going to rock. So you got a couple dubs on the right side of the deal. You got one pretty big loss in the Brandon Aiyuk side. The third makes no sense, but then you ended up giving away a free Kirk Cousins and Evan Ingram and a Deebo Samuel. So everything glowingly that I said about getting your first back, you completely just fucked it over by gifting the shit out of Blitz. All those other pieces in a best ball league, which to him mean a fuck ton more than what he gave away. Right? It's got to sting a little bit to give up that 103, but the rest of it, you're looking at it and you're going, oh, well, this was pretty fucking easy. When he was putting this deal together in the Discord, I really wanted to ask him, who are these fucking idiots you play with? This is even an option.
Is this Lil Flip?
But talk about putting the pressure on a dude to get back his fucking first. To be like, nah, see, it ain't enough. I'm giving you your first back. It's going to be early. Brandon Aiyuk still got some dynasty value, whatever the fuck it is. Let me get one of these dudes off just to replace Aiyuk. That's a dub for me, but then I'm doing you such a big favor by giving this back. I'm going to need fucking 3 extra pieces on top of the T. Higgins for this other mid first that I'm giving. I don't fucking understand it. This is just showing off at this point.
Damn. I mean, okay, I would say this. In best ball versus lineup, this is I don't think I could make it. I don't think there's a word I could use that's too strong here. These are so different conversations in the best ball in the lineup league right here, right? Like you talked about it with T. Higgins. And you and I like T. Higgins, but let's say now he is nowhere near the 103. And
no.
Even if he plays well, even if he goes to get a new deal, even if he does all that, let's say he exceeds what people's expectations are, there's just no chance because of what the value is. Now, the reason I say that, though, is because in lineup, right, I'm already giving up the clear best asset in the deal, and then I add another mid lineup. This is like, bro, we're not even having conversations here. I'm laughing you out of the building. Just stop. I'm not moving. You better come with something different, and if you don't have something different, I'm holding this first from you. Mm-hmm. Best ball, totally different conversation, because I will take back quantity over quality in certain ranges, right? Like, obviously, all things being equal, I'm going to take quality. So it's got to be the right quantity. And I think that's one of the things in best ball that's in tear downs and in big packages, I think, still miss. Like, nobody in this trade outside of Rachaad White, at least for the way I view it, is even close to a write-off. Like, these are all weekly potential staples for your team, right? I do think that Ingram and Debo, they carry some injury risk, but, like, all right, that's fine. The only conversation I'll have about this, if this was the right trade for Blitz to make or not, strictly comes down to your league. Mike, I'm telling you, I play in some leagues in best ball. Not that many. I'm probably 2, because most of them I play in with you and all the shitheads, right? So it's not those leagues, all right? Maybe back in the day. Those days are over, though, okay? Like, I think there's a definite chance that I'm going to look it up in the lab, because what I mean by this is there's a chance, like with the pick here that's Ja flips, and then depending on what happens with good old Maurice, where some teams right now might not really be entertaining picks the way that you would think that they should. All of a sudden, let's say 3 weeks later, there's some teams that actually want to get these picks, especially ones that are going to be early. The only counter again to your point is that these guys all give you a massive difference weekly in points per game and all that. The only issue is that you carry the risk of their injuries if they do get hurt. I think I'd still make this trade pretty easily, unless I knew that in this market there's a team or two that's completely out of the bidding right now. Basically, they're going to have to eventually see me with coming to the table and realizing they need picks. They're just not going to make the playoffs. If that doesn't exist, like in a lot of leagues, and you can't move that 103 for quantity, a big package, this is a deal you make. I just want to kind of highlight that for people that don't play in best ball. It's very different than in lineup.
Yeah, the other two guys that, would be interested in early picks that have already kind of declared. The problem with their teams is they're very devoid of talent.
They don't have enough, right? Yeah.
And in best ball league, I'm very strict with this, Adam, especially with how deep this one is. This is deep enough. Mm-hmm. I'll say this: quantity over quality almost every time. And it's not like any of these dudes are turds. So Blitz really shared up the fact that he's got he had 2 glaring holes on this roster as far as best ball roster construction that I always constantly preach. You and I talk about this all the time. One, he didn't have a third quarterback. Took care of that. Didn't cost him a quarterback.
Okay.
Right? So he's got a third quarterback now. He's not relying on Brock Purdy's shitty weeks in a super flex spot or a skill position anymore. Like, he's got another option potentially get in there. And the second one, he still hasn't. Blitz, hopefully you listen to this. Why the fuck are you still rostering A.J. Dillon on a competing best ball roster? Like, that dude's a drop. That dude's a fucking drop. Get a backup tight end, man. Like, just get some fucking turd. Pick up Simi Fehoko, for fuck's sake. Like,
he shouldn't be on there.
A.J. Dillon. He shouldn't be on your fucking team.
He should not be on there. But if you have empty spots or if you have guys like that, like, I'm not going to say you shouldn't have done this already, but now is time, if you're contending in best ball, to, like, listen, you got to get gross. You got to get, as some people say,
nut up.
I saw the Jameis Winston talking about Mike Evans, like, he's from Galveston. You got to get it out the muck. Because you got to get in the waiver wire, man. And if you don't know, go check out. If you don't know who to get in these dynasty leagues, Mike, where you probably may have never heard of some of these players or who's going to be starting. Every Tuesday, check out Eric's podcast, Waiver Wire Podcast. It's a great quick hitter, man. Doesn't need you. Boom. Doesn't leave you needing more. Doesn't need you leaving less, because there is nothing less. He'll go deep. He'll tell you who you need to be targeting. I think his team, when you look at it right now, right, the final piece I'll say about this is obviously if I'm willing to hold these picks if there's a scenario where it makes sense, right? Now, if you've kind of gone through the process that's not really there, Mike, the biggest question when I'm moving a pick package like this, two mid to earlies is a heavy package. I need to see something like this where it's what I mean is this. These 5 players, when I look at my team, pre and subsequent trade, right? We're talking about a team that right now, when I see those picks gone in my team, when I'm looking at it pushing forward, like it better be right in the mix with the top dog. And if I'm not doing that, Mike, the price of the brick's got to go up. Price of the brick's got to go up. And if I'm not getting to that point, I'm holding these picks. But if you get to the point where you're here blitz, I think this deal makes sense. Again, the only issue would be could you make a deal later or, God, knock on wood, bro. I'm about so sick of these injuries. Like, stop it. Can we just get a little bit of a break if some of these guys get hurt? But for this package, I'm in, man. I'm in. And Ja Flip, I mean, listen, you got your pick back, but sometimes you don't necessarily have to get it back is another thing to keep in mind. All right, Puka Nacua making the trade show. The best of the rest. Rashee Rice, Keon Coleman, and McCaffrey. Wow, look at this package. 4th and a 1st. All right, for CeeDee and Travis Kelce. So, Mike, he is sending away the once revered wide receiver 1 dynasty, or kind of in that range, and Travis Kelce, who has been, we want to talk about warp difference makers. I mean, I bet you go to if we had a warp Hall of Fame, Mike, Travis Kelce be in that thing. But the tight end position is about to die because Travis Kelce's not him anymore. What do you think of this trade here if you are Puka Nacua? This is a best ball start 10.
I don't like it. But to each their own, man. This is where, like, Koopa's very smart. And I like the way he runs stuff, but I don't always agree with it.
Sure.
And I've seen him out here buying up a lot of Chris Godwin and Brandon Aiyuk and Rashee Rice. I'm not fucking doing it for this. I'm not. There's no way in fucking hell I'm out here doing this. One, like, let's break this shit down. CeeDee Lamb or Rashee Rice, Keon Coleman, and a late first in a best ball league. Like, at this point.
I mean, Rashee's playing? Yeah, package. Easy. Rashee's not playing?
If he's playing.
Yeah, Rashee's not playing. Rashee's not playing. I mean, I'm doing one of these where I'm like, I'm not telling you like flat out no because I'm gonna go see if there's anything else better, but I don't feel good about it. It's one of those, Mike. You and I are going back and forth negotiations. I feel like I'm just limp. I'm not quite there.
There's no way in fuck right now with Rashee Rice not playing that I'm doing this.
It's because it's still CeeDee. And
it's CeeDee Lamb.
The one thing is, I don't know. I'm waiting. I need to see how he looks out of the bye. Let me just make sure I'm not catching magic in a bottle twice.
Now, the only thing I'll say about Koopa is maybe he's doing the deep dive on this guy's roster and thinks maybe he's gonna fail.
Well, that was gonna be my initial. In I think, to me, this has one of those intuition, Mike. I'm gonna say the word intuition. I'm telling, listen, man. We went to something earlier today with my kids, right? It's during their nap time. They're both nap. I got a 3-month-old that's basically always half asleep, right? And then I've got my toddler she needs a nap. Man, when I tell you we get home at 4:30, we're going to go try to do this thing at 6 o'clock. We try to get them down. I'm like, babe, I'm telling you, intuition, we ain't going to this thing. Like, these kids are going to be so fried. Sure enough, they were. Like, this has an intuition to me of this. He's betting against Tyre Deus, in my opinion, because if you told me that pick's earlier, mid, I'm a lot more interested, buddy. A lot more interested. I'm not telling you I'm like smashing it, but if it's like got a chance to be early, I mean, hell, maybe I would smash that shit. Where are we here? The best of the rest. Okay. Here's
the thing, though. You just took a zero. Well, a couple zeros, because Luke McCaffrey ain't really shit. And Keon Coleman, who's mostly been kind of a zero, not entering a lot of lineups, minus this last week. You took 3 shitters off his team, and you gave him two potential studs and difference makers, right? For the allure of possibly having a mid to early pick.
Sure.
That's the part I don't like. Like that really feels like a bailout. And when I say like I don't buy these injured fucking players immediately after, it's because people value them still too highly. Doesn't matter if it's Rashee Rice, doesn't matter if it's Brandon Aiyuk, doesn't matter if it's fucking Chris Godwin. Everybody still thinks about what they did, and they don't factor in the fact that as the season keeps going on and people are eating these zeros, like the price goes way the fuck down. It just does. We're tired of seeing it. Now you factor in too, like in the Discord, how people felt 2 weeks ago about buying Rashee Rice versus now. Now you see like the chat in there, the talk like, well, what's it look like when he comes back next year? Well, by all accounts, he's going to be healthy, which I agree. It sounds like he'll be healthy, but then we're like, well, does he get that suspension too? Like, does he get that suspension? Like, is he going to miss, 3, 4, 5, 6 games, whatever the fuck it is next year after the suspension? We don't know. All I'm saying is his price is extremely volatile and still on the way down. So like now is not the time that I'm buying.
Well, I think Mike. Well, I was going to say Rashi's a case where we have seen a few weeks and we're starting to see it cool off. I think right or wrong, depending if you know your league mates. Like I'm looking here. I've been in a league with Jamos, Stinzy, but for the most part, I have not played with these players. Now this is. Listen, I'm not trying to besmirch these people's names. I don't know if they're good or bad players. I just know that if I'm in a league where I can sense, let me not, Zach, my bad. I'm not good. I see in here. Okay. But, Mike, sometimes while you're correct as far as the evaluation of how we feel about it, that doesn't mean that everybody in this league is going to be cool on Rashi come, the period where we're like, all right, remember we told you? Remember we told you guys all in the offseason when all the rookie hype starts to get crazy, right? It doesn't mean that everyone in this league won't value Rashi differently when he's going to be healthy. And the thing is, I think it's more of you're getting Rashi probably in a mindset of flipping, or I would hope so. You're not betting on him being immediately right out of the gates a huge producer, but you might just be willing to wait until he gets back to showing you something on the field to trade him. But I think it's more about the first here for me, where I'm with you as far as it's right now, currently, right? Tyler Deas is the 7th team. He's 4-3. This could end up being, I'll call this the 1-0, with Coop about to drive his team down. This is probably going to be the 104 at best, if I'm being honest, right? Because I don't think he passes Koopa. I don't think he passes Stanto and Stinzy. So you're talking probably like a 104 to 107 pick. Now, the Keon Coleman and Luke McCaffrey thing, I think, are interesting only because those are the type of players that next year, even if they might end up having way more value than they should, and that's what I'd be trying to flip personally if they have not shown me enough. But I think with him getting 3 first now in this class, where 2 of which obviously one of his own is early, and Tyler's team is definitely a playoff team, but we'll see where he finishes. I get it. I definitely get it. I think it definitely feels light. I would like to have gotten something more, but I think one of the things is why you're right about the Rashee Rice thing. Typically in leagues like this, I don't know, it feels like it just kind of started when I'm looking at these rosters. If I can pick over some of the teams that aren't that good early on, man, I could show you some teams that have been built the right way that way. So I think it becomes a process thing now, Mike. Not necessarily taking back the injured players. I'm with you on not doing that when I don't have to. I see he already has Brandon Aiyuk here, but okay. Tyreek Hill, got to go. Tyreek Hill needs to go somebody. He needs to find a home. Joe Mixon needs to find a home. Like, let me get rid of these guys, go ahead and get as much liquid draft capital in 25 and 26 as I can. Let's come back in 25 or 26 ready to kick some people in the teeth. But I guess the only thing I'm a little surprised CeeDee Lamb's market's not hotter, I guess. I don't know. And maybe it's just the reality.
So let me just ask a couple things here. Like we saw CeeDee Lamb last year go on a ridiculous run, him and Dak Prescott. Bananas. And I'm not saying it can't happen again, but like we have seen it. Like we know it's possible, right?
100%.
And I think you, like me, we're all hoping by week banged up 49ers. Like lightning's going to strike twice and we're going to go back on this thing. I get it. Like at least I've seen it with CeeDee Lamb. And Rashee Rice.
Yeah.
Adam, like he was balling out of his fucking mind to start the season. Like he really was.
Yeah, he was. He was on an absolute kick heater.
But logically, let's think about where we were at the start of the season with all offenses underperforming everywhere. Rashee Rice playing out of his mind, out of his abilities that I don't think anybody had thought was coming anyways.
No.
That was still in WARP per game was a 0.1, right? Outside the top 50 players. And that's not killing him for the games that he's missed, right? Like that's looking at just games that he was actually started. His AWARP per game is outside the top 50 in this league.
Mm-hmm.
CeeDee Lamb last year was 6 weeks of shit. 6 weeks of shit.
Last year's WARP for him, cheat code.
Finished the year at 0.16 per game. Inside the top 10 comfortably.
Yeah. He was him.
All I'm saying is even in a best ball league, right? Like if you were to take some wide receiver outside the top 50, Keon Coleman, Luke McCaffrey, a mid-first in kind of a shitty class, and a 4th round pick, just for CeeDee Lamb, that might be a fair trade. In all reality, it might be because he can be such a WARP difference maker. And then you just put a free Travis Kelce on it in the 2 tight end league.
Yeah, I mean, the Travis Kelce part is a very different, interesting situation. I'll say, I guess here's what I'll say about it. In general speaking, you bring up a lot of good points as far as CeeDee Lamb's worth. The one big piece, I think, in best ball, you were talking about in a previous trade. I think it's hard to quantify. We try to talk about as many trades as we can. Where it becomes quantity versus quality actually becomes a problem, right? That trade you saw with Blitz, those are that quantity is not shit quality, right? Like we're talking about players that are not just long shots to get into your lineup. Those are guys that in lineup leagues people are relying on weekly, right? There's a definite fall off when we're talking about a big diamond versus a bunch of these little shitters. I'm not saying a bunch of these guys. This is the reason I want to say all that, though, because I think you bring up some great points. One thing, though, ultimately, and I think this point is probably more important to the average person listening to this than is the point you're bringing up. And I don't disagree with what you're saying. But here's the problem. If you're Koopa, right, and you're trying to go get this home run trade in this type of a league, and let's say at this point it's not existing, you're 3-4, you want to hold on to CeeDee Lamb and Travis Kelce. I've seen people be their own worst enemy where they don't actually make this trade, because the biggest thing here is not necessarily, I agree with you that it feels light, but I think the biggest point in best ball is not necessarily these pieces. It's now having the mindset of, okay, when Keon Coleman has his spike weeks, when Keon Coleman, maybe if it doesn't even happen in production, let's say he has, a couple decent weeks, he's a touchdown or whatever, and there's a pop in value. Like, it's now playing the multiplication game. It's literally now, it's flashcards, buddy. Like, I now have more assets. Luke McCaffrey right now, you may not think anything of. And I don't really, frankly. I mean, Keon Coleman, same thing. The 4th is definitely a different conversation. But now it's getting to make sure that those extra pieces, you're getting quantity, and then you're flipping those at the right time so that you can build the right roster. Because I think if you stay and just think this crazy trade's coming for CeeDee Lamb that isn't, your team's not ready for CeeDee Lamb anyway. So in best ball, it's kind of a catch-22 if you have not played before, where you do not want to end up just holding these guys thinking their market's insane. You don't have enough depth. You don't have a good enough team to be in that position, right?
The biggest problem I have, right, is because there's a name Rashee Rice in there, right? And that's how we're going to value it. But strip that away. In all reality, what you should be paying for a Rashee Rice right now, if you're trying to buy him, should be what? A mid to late second at best. At best. So make that a mid to late second and make Keon Coleman an early second. Early second.
Sure.
Early second, a mid to late second, 2 fucking nothing pieces, and Luke McCaffrey in a 4th, and a mid first for fucking CeeDee Lamb. And now, think about that logically.
Okay, I will do that, and I will say in that trade, probably hard pass. However, Mike, I know that's where you value him, and I know that's where if I'm a contender, where I'd be thinking about valuing him. But I know in this league there's 12 players, and I know, and I hope we get to this point that we have enough people. I want to know in the comments. Let's get some let's get some actionable shit in here. Let's see what you guys think. Where would you put Rashee Rice's value today? Because, Mike, here's the thing. The crazy part about trades, and you know this better than anyone, because I saw what you did in the first trade, and I've seen what you've done in hundreds of trades. Don't fucking sugarcoat that shit with me. It's all about what one person thinks of that deal, and I tell you right now, I could find in almost every one of my leagues at least one. At least one. Unless it's only shit Savage and all you fuckers are listening to Mike every day, because he's not wrong, but it's does the whole group that I'm playing with value him that way? And if that's not the case, it's not necessarily second. So I think that's part of the market thing.
That is 1,000% true. But now the onus is on Koopa to capitalize on Rashee Rice's perceived value within your league.
Right.
Now the onus is on him, right? Because if he doesn't, this is a fucking L. It's an L. If you look back and Rashee fucking Rice is on his squad in 2025, he took the L on this fucking trade. Big time.
I think, too, because, what's interesting about that, too, and the last point I'll make on this is that part of the intrigue, I think, if you're thinking about it from a market standpoint, is Rashee Rice is probably going to have a name that's overvalued into next season even. Now, I'm not telling you he's not going to continue to dip because we're going to have other people coming around. But if his name if he didn't have quite the start he had this year and he didn't get such rave reviews, not to mention a suspension could be coming for him next year, we may have all of a sudden conveniently forgotten about. But I'm not here to rile the crowd up, Mike. That's I can't even do that. I have to play devil's advocate even if I don't want to. How about Zach Willard making a trade here? All right, we got Mike. Where are you at on this one here? So he's getting a 26 first of Squirrel Daddies. I'm very curious to see what Squirrel Daddy's team's all about. Romeo Dobbs and Ramondre Stevenson for Gibbs and 2 fourths. So here is the context as far as the scoring. We are going to have to warp and lab this sheesh. Lineup start 12 teams. It's a half PPR for the running back. It's tiered PPR essentially, where it's a half point full for the wide receiver, but it's 1.75 for the tight end, and you do get a 1.5 points per carry. So I kind of know where your heart is going to tell the start of this, and then we'll see what ends up being the devil's in the details. Go ahead and tell Zach how you feel. You've had enough sauce to tell him.
This is fucking horrible. Fucking what are we doing? Jesus. Coop, you get off the hook here because this is going to take the cake for the worst fucking deal on this trade show.
Well, it will be interesting to see where this first ends up being. I have a feeling it has to be. I guess even then.
Better be good.
Well, it feels like it has to be, no?
Better be really fucking good.
I mean, I know it's a start 12, and I'm not like, I don't know, like I've been so kind of wrong where I've been wanting or valuing Rhino. It's like when I'm out, he comes back.
News,
when I'm in.
Probably not going to be good. And it is in 26. It's even 2 years out, so go fuck yourself on that one, too.
It looks like an early, yeah.
I mean, right now the guy's in 5th place, 9-5, and he's got a pretty solid squad.
Okay, interesting.
And it's not a squad, like I built some really gross, contending squads where it's like Aaron Rodgers and like shit that's all gonna fucking die in the next year.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily that. Kenneth Walker, Breece Hall, Jahmyr Gibbs, T. Higgins, Chris Olave, Dalton Kincaid, Kenneth Walker, getting T.J. Hawkinson back, Michael Penix just chilling on his bench, waiting for that one to pop. He's got another first from some Nate guy that looks pretty fucking early. Yeah, looks like the 101 right now.
Okay.
This guy's roster's doing okay. So okay. I'm not really betting against him in 2026. Let's just say that. Like that one that would stand out to me, be like, I want to bet against this guy.
Yeah, when I look at it, okay. I guess here's what I'm seeing. It's definitely lacking depth, big time. He's got some hammers though. I mean, he's got some.
Yes.
He's got them dudes. But like when I look at this team, right? Just you think about it from let's say we're doing lineup start 9 for a second, right? You go Josh Allen, Breece Hall, Jahmyr Gibbs now, T. Higgins, Chris Olave, Dalton Kincaid, Kenneth Walker, and then Mike. I don't know who you name next because, like, I personally would name next the QB. Like, I like the Penix thing he's got going here. He's got Penix and Cousins. But, Mike, I mean, Rome is obviously not been it this year. I think he's going to be great moving forward. There's two things about this team that, okay, from the Jahmyr Gibbs side, let me just touch on that first. Jahmyr Gibbs, I think probably at this point, even still with all the things I'm going to say, is a player I probably would have tried to move elsewhere or held on a little bit longer. I know it's very interesting. We've talked about this before. Last week was his big blow up week, and I had to wear the jersey to let people know. Like I'm very in on Gibbs. However, I know some people are, whatever it is, the splits, whatever it may be, Mike. They're not as bullish on his dynasty value and outlook. So I'll just say I probably would have rather kept Gibbs here. Mike, there's two things about this team, to me, that are worth betting against. I just probably wouldn't have done it for Gibbs. The bench on this team, okay? I mean, what are we doing? Like the roster construction of this team between the bench and the fact that he has all these tight ends. All right, like I can get on board with what you're seeing here. Like it's a couple players from going downhill in a hurry. I get it. I think sometimes if I'm trying to go get a pick, that's great. And I'm there's certain picks I'm like locked in on going to grab, but there's also that line in the sand where it's like, okay, even if I want this pick and even if I think that this can get it done, do I need to make it right now? And for me personally, I probably would have leaned on no. Let me ask you this from the standpoint of Mike's been drinking out of this big cup, so there's no reason to try to act like this isn't, him going to the big gulp, the Slurpee, the 7-Eleven. He's not changing his answer, but this is my question, actually. When I look at Zach Willard's team, I'm curious your thoughts on this specifically. Man, he's right here at this point where 6-8, good, not great. I'm not saying this is necessarily the best thing to do because of that, but do you think that you would try to start, like, to me, I would be trying to trade other players on your team first, but do you think this is kind of I need to get some points off and go ahead and try to get closer to the 102, 103 as well?
I'd be perfectly fine with that if you didn't convolute the deal with producing shitters who aren't going to maintain dynasty value as a part of the deal coming back. Right?
Yeah, you now have to flip these guys if you can, right?
If you told me this was 26 first and a second, fine.
Yeah,
fine. You're calling it quits. You're getting off Gibbs. You're getting off a running back. As much as I love Jahmyr Gibbs and I think he can be a game changer, and you're probably going to enjoy him for the next 3, 4, 5, 6, might be the Alvin Kamara fucking career arc where he's still going at 29 and still dominating.
Yep.
Like, he's got that kind of talent.
Yep.
But even if you wanted to do that, like, why am I taking Ramondre Stevenson and Romeo Doubs as like centerpieces of the deal coming back? I get the draft pick. You just got shit that doesn't really fucking matter. Like, I get sending it in. I'm not doing it like this. I'm not letting you convolute the deal with your dog shit that you want to get off of.
I think this probably too is maybe it's either a little bit of trying to have your cake and eat it too. Like, all right, maybe I can see if Ramondre ends up giving me some weeks, and if he doesn't, I'll tank it. Or I don't know how picks typically get traded in this league. If people are stingy with seconds and stuff, the problem with that would be that are you going to be able to flip Ramondre for one of those? I think direction obviously will be the biggest thing that decides this for me with Zach. I think right now when I look at Zach's team, when I look at Squirrel Daddy's team, I can understand it from both sides. Squirrel Daddy's team, man, is kind of interesting because if he finds a way to thread the needle on health, even in a line of start 12 with like 2 to 3 questionable flexes, man, might be just fine.
He's got some hammers.
But man, it's like at this rate, dude. Listen, I've had some of those teams that look great and line up for when things go right, and all of a sudden you get 2 players, massive players, hurt in the same game, same week. definitely risky business for Squirrel Daddy. But for Zach, I think Zach. Here's the thing: I would have liked to try to see if I could keep Gibbs for a pick in 2026. I understand the process for you. I definitely do. I think in process you can end up making a trade like this work, and sometimes you're going to end up taking a deal that's not necessarily the best for you personally at the time in a big process play. Even then, this one's like, when I look at his team, right? So CJ Stroud, Marv, and Jahmyr Gibbs would have been like the 3 players on his team that I'm not specifically making this type of a deal for. I get wanting to do it. I understand it. But I think here I would have – the process for me needs to be better than Ramondre or more liquid than listen, Rhino is not very liquid, okay, guys? He's a big tank, you know?
Well, I mean, there was other options, right? Like try to get a 25 and a 26 first.
Yeah.
Clean cut. And maybe that didn't present itself. But, like I see some contending teams out here with dudes like Zay Flowers. Could I get Zay Flowers in the first for Gibbs?
He's also – that dude's sitting on the 101 still, too.
that's what I was – like, can I get the 101 off for you? Right?
Well, whatever.
Like
even if it ends up being the 103 because he's on his pick, like, holy shit, man.
But the same fucking thing. Like, you see the dude sitting with it with the guy who's currently in last place. Like,
I'm pretty sure he said no, he ain't coming off of it.
Any deal for fucking Gibbs is going to start here, buddy. And if you don't want to meet it, then fuck out of here, right? Like, I'll just play this out. I'll play it out, and I'll keep trying to compete or whatever it is. But, like, if I'm waving the white flag on a player like Jahmyr Gibbs, who has long-term dynasty value, one of the few running backs who you can actually say that, I'm not fucking taking Ramondre Stevenson and a guy in Romeo Dobbs, which I like. I was on fucking Club Fantasy Sit Show, like, touting Romeo Dobbs is like, you fucking start him. You know what I mean?
We got mixed signals. No, I mean, I get it.
But ain't nobody out here giving you a first for Romeo Dobbs, and they sure as fuck ain't giving you one for Ramondre Stevenson. You can package them together, and I don't think anybody give you a first.
Yeah, I get it. I think right now even, so Gibbs is actually currently running back 10 in this league in WARP per game, which is .216, which is inside the top 20, so he's 17 overall. I think in general, the running back position, like as a whole, pretty fluid as far as like I'm willing to make a lot of process trades. I think Gibbs is going to be one of the few guys that will meet the criteria of not in that camp, right? Like if you kind of say, okay, this is the process, but I have a couple asterisks. Like Gibbs is one of those few players for me. All that said, though, I think it can be a very fine trade if you stick with what the process is, in my opinion, of, okay, once you've kind of realized it's not going to happen now, Ramondre this week doesn't get it done for you because he hasn't been doing that. Let's go ahead and see what we can get out of him. Let's go ahead and see if we can start liquidating. Aaron Jones is back. Like, kind of lean into that. Go ahead and get yourself into a better pick and load up for next year because I think your team with the picks you have will be fine, even after making this Gibbs trade. To me, with the running back line in this league, Mike, I would probably have preferred to hold Gibbs even more so, but I think here's the thing about Gibbs. I love the guy. I think he's more replaceable than I want to admit, but I'm also not just gonna, let someone else fucking be the one that dictates that. Like, you have to pay me something more for Gibbs than what probably market is reflective of personally.
Hey, I see Blitz is in the chat. He just caught up. AJ Dillon's gonna be cut. Good job. Just get anybody on there. I thought it was a good deal for you. Those are my only 2 critiques. You got another quarterback? Get AJ Dillon off your team. And by the way, Adam, one thing we brought up here, I kind of mentioned it. I seen Brugler out there with the tweets about Garrett Nussmeier. Good for him. I seen Jim Nagy out there with the tweets about like get on the train or you'll be too late. Just to give y'all a heads up, I respect those guys, but I also am one of them people that'll tell you when I don't fucking see it, and I don't fucking see it. Garrett Nussmeier is currently 21 of 43 with 2 fucking interceptions. So maybe that's why I don't fucking see it. All right. If that's your QB1 of 25, should tell y'all you need to know about how great this fucking quarterback class is.
Uh-oh.
Good luck.
What if we have our Brock Purdy 2.0?
He's currently losing 28-17 to a quarterback who's 6 of 18 for 64 yards. Also, some people's next year's 26-101 in fucking Connor Wegman,
the
who
chosen
also,
one.
by the way, I don't know if he's a chosen one, but
Nah, some people are high as hell on Connor. It's crazy.
When I saw him do the that little mentalist thing before the season, right?
Oh yeah.
And the way he talked, like that's a white dude. If I've ever seen a white dude that talks like Jason Williams, white chocolate, like that ain't cool. Like Jay Will's the only one who gets that pass, motherfucker. You can't talk like that.
Damn.
You can't say bruh that many times. Shut the fuck up. You should be undrafted.
I think. Well, it's unlikely that we see him in the situation to do this, but man, it would be kind of fun to see a Brock Purdy 2.0 unfold. Like, guy gets drafted somewhere, Mike just year or two from now is just absolutely body bagging this man till no end. Love it all, y'all. Appreciate you tapping in. Okay, I'm gonna go 2 questions here.
For sure.
Right.
Let's
get a couple questions.
Prime time trade show. We gotta get at least a couple questions on
for sure. Okay, so Rob Gronkowski. I always love seeing this. It's like the actual name and the avatar is like, okay. Is Godwin worth buying? Well, it's very similar to the other conversations, except for he should be less. And listen, man, I love Chris Godwin. I only love him because he got cheap enough to where I was able to get back in. I had liquidated. Mike and I both did. We made pivots straight up for Devontae Smith and got laughed out of the building. He's worth buying. Just I can almost promise you, similar to those other guys, there's no way you buy him for what I would be buying him for right now. There's just no chance. I mean, what would you send away for Chris Godwin right now if you're rebuilding?
I'll at least make the argument. I don't know if he is any less valuable than Brandon Aiyuk. Right, the age thing doesn't make a difference to me. But the one thing I will say, I have more faith in him coming off this ankle injury than I do Brandon Aiyuk coming off of this multi-ligament knee injury in 2025. Like production-wise, how quickly they could get ran back up to speed. So I'd say he's probably kind of in the same boat, right? Like a mid to late second in value. And that's all I'm really willing to pay. And if anybody wants more than that, I'm not doing it.
There's no way. There's no way people are giving off of. In most leagues, I bet you there's no way. So that's why I say I would like to buy him, but I don't think people right now are willing to, get themselves into the area where, hey, let me take this 210 type pick for Chris Godwin. I'm personally not seeing that, right?
I will say this on the opposite end of the spectrum, though. As a contender, we brought his name up a few times and it was on this last trade, though. If I'm a contender, my bottom dollar, and we talked about this on AMA with Aiyuk or Godwin, is like, why not Romeo Doubs? Why not Romeo Doubs on a contending team?
Oh, you mean
like,
if you're pivoting,
I'd like to get a lot more
away off those guys?
Yeah,
sure.
I'd like to get some of these deals out here where I'm getting fucking, Devontae Adams and Keenan Allen, obviously, or I'd like to get Stephon Diggs straight up, which I've gotten done a few times.
Yeah,
I don't know how, but it gets done.
Sure.
It gets done.
Yeah, I
like that's where you start, but work your way down, and at the very least, if you're on a contending team, you're doing yourself a disservice if you ain't down to like fucking Romeo Doubs or Christian Watson or Josh Downs or somebody in that range.
I do think at that range, Mike, I'm probably in most leagues willing to say, all right, let me see if I come back and kick the can next week and see what's going on, because I'm not telling you I wouldn't take those guys. I think the reality is, Mike, you're probably push come to shove, I'm taking them 100%. But the best part about Dynasty, at least for me, is trading. And the reason I love trading so much is because I know so many of you value things differently than Mike. And thank God, because it's how we keep going. It's how we keep getting more of these trades. It's how, Mike, you got Devontae Adams and Keenan Allen when you would have very likely made that trade with Brandon Aiyuk was healthy for a hurt Brandon Aiyuk. So, E-Tron, been a while since we've chatted it up, so appreciate you hopping on the trade show today. It's always fun seeing E-Tron in some of these leagues and some of these trades, right?
By the way, though, if you do want a positive update on the 2025 class, Ted McMillan went 10 for 202 yards and 1 touchdown. Confirmed good.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the Tet thing was always going to continue to happen. There was a little more mixed reviews of Tet. I feel like it's garbage, fake reviews because of his size, but the Tet's absolutely ridiculous, man. Like watching him play is fucking stupid, man. Stupid.
It's worked out for another receiver, a very similar build and skill set, and Drake London, who I unfortunately tried to body bag 3 weeks ago, and Drake told me to fuck off.
It happened. There was another another question.
I wrote him off, and he did right back.
Oh no, Gino. Hey, you like talking? I tell you, for a guy that loves defending QBs to no end, like you have the smart play that, like, listen, the warp guys, but then even the ones that definitely have like no rushing upside or minimal, you're like, nah, fuck that, I'm defending them. Even if I have to talk about non-fantasy related, he was a fine quarterback this week. I don't give a shit for as much as that. What's funny to me is like how many times you keep bringing up all these shitters, fucking Brock Purdy, Geno Smith, like get these turds out of here, man. Which way is it, you know? All right, one last question. I had a good one here. Maybe. Where was it, though? Got a lot of questions in here, man. Listen, normally when we do the trade show, even when it's live, it's, we kind of get through the trades, but there's some good ones. There was one that was really good. Damn it, I can't find it now. Okay, here you go. He's got, which one of two would you drop on the bench? So I'm pretty sure this has to be more of a redraft league. ETN, Downs, Lazard, Madison, Bateman, Jacoby Myers, or Wan'Dale Robinson. My starters are Walker, Williams, Brees, Hall, Jefferson. Yeah, obviously those guys no one's even touching. So sorry. So who would you drop off the bench? Okay, so Mike, again, Lazard, Madison, Bateman, Jacoby Myers, Wan'Dale, Downs. Where are we at?
Probably Downs and Lazard at this point. Like,
Yeah.
I do believe Etienne is probably cooked and it might be over with him, but he's still a running back in. We've seen this shit. Maybe he rebounds in a couple weeks and has the lead role or whatever. But
Sure.
Downs with this passing offense, and Lazard now being the kind of the third option. I want to keep the running backs in Etienne and Madison. Bateman, weird thing, Adam. I think I'm back in on Shoddy B, man. We definitely wrote him off.
I was getting ready to hear from you about Shoddy B because, I think in general, that offense, the way it's running currently, if it continues to be this high-powered, there's going to be someone over the top. And it always made sense for it to be Bateman. But, it always made sense for it to be Bateman, but it always never made sense every single year. Maybe, I'll tell you this much. We're getting ready to go into totally new uncharted waters, Mike, because if we get J-Mo, Bateman, if all these dudes have this breakout here, pandemonium. Everyone's can fucking not be written off. It's going to be crazy. So it'll be fun. I'm with you.
And then
for here,
Myers
I'm dropping
and Robinson.
No, I'm not dropping
Myers and Robinson, just because they're number two options, right?
Right.
They both teams have good number one options, but there's literally fucking nobody else besides these guys on that team, on those teams.
Yeah, I'm dropping, personally, the way I think about this is Downs for me is so, it's annoying, but such a different conversation. Rich or Flacco, I'm still holding on to him and wanting to see more. This might sound crazy if you've been, before Adams and all that, with how Lazard was playing. You go look at, you want to give us warp, it's going to be way higher in warp. You're going to feed us warp right back. Listen, the thing about warp is, though, the past warp does not project necessarily the future warp. Warp is only telling us what happened in the past. Mike, Lazard, to me, of all these players right now, when are you going to start Allen Lazard confidently relative to all these players? The reason it's Lazard for me. The only way you're going to do that is if Adams or Garrett Wilson's missing. There's no way in the fucking world, I don't care how much you like him or think that Rodgers still's going to throw to him, that you're going to start him. So for me, it's that. Because I think if there's a chance where Flacco either goes back in because he gets an injury to A-Rich or whatever the case may be, he's a guy I probably easily could consider starting among this group. I feel like Lazard's path to starting on this list, very different than all the rest. I feel like all the other guys I might be able to talk myself into, I can't see it with Lazard. So he is the weakest link. Goodbye.
Yeah. Second though is Josh Downs for me, as long as A-Rich is playing.
Yeah, if you told me that Lazard wasn't there, he would be the next two. I'm holding out optimism, which is insane. As a guy that was so excited for A-Rich, got his jersey. I've got some pretty bad early purchases on jerseys. It's kind of wild.
Look at Dowds, right? I'm just reading off the last 4 weeks. 9 targets, 12 targets, 9 targets, 3 targets.
Who would have known that the slot doesn't get a lot of passing work when no one gets a lot of passing work, let alone he doesn't like to throw there. I mean, it's like with A-Rich, I'm not saying he won't throw, but what's he like to do? Let me go ahead and get that moon ball back. You know, we haven't seen it since week 1. I don't know if anyone even remembers it at this point. It's a short-lived thing, you know, that 70-yard fucking skyrocket bomb, man.
I enjoyed our victory lap. It's the only moment we had.
I didn't take a long one, thank God. Speaking of which, we will see you back here. If you want a victory lap, make sure you go check out patreon.com/South Harmon. Put your trades in there. We will roast them, praise them. Mike will tell you, I promise you, especially if we got the big cup, the big gulp late night, he will tell you exactly what he thinks of this deal. So we'll see you back here, same time, same place. Also, make sure you are checking out, Mike. You already know what time it is, how we got to get him out of here, right?
Ooh, a little preview of what's coming tomorrow.
You already know. Make sure you're tapping in tomorrow. Sunday recap. If there was one to check out, that would be tomorrow.
It's going to be a long one, too.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one. Make sure you're tapping in. You don't want to catch that 49er and Dallas game anyway, right?
Gives a shit.
Nah. Love y'all.
Gives a shit. Let me know when CeeDee gets 50.
You shouldn't have buried me. I'm not dead. Take it serious.
Yeah.
Hello, Michael.
Hi.
This is your wake-up call.
What's going to happen?
I'm afraid that was a wrong answer.
Oh, shit.
What's happening to my face?
Hey, yo.
Burning me?